Hi everybody. I am finally getting around to making my Inktober Day 2 video. As you can see, I prepared myself a nice cup of tea with some sweet, sweet lactate. And I'm going to be working on today's theme, which is tranquil. But, I told myself that I wasn't going to do a forest. I told myself, do like a Pokemon, do an animal, do like even a person who's in a tranquil mood. I went with forest. But in my defense, and I don't think anyone out there is judging me for doing a forest, but in my defense, I grew up around two of the most beautiful areas with forests. I grew up between Santa Cruz with those big, gorgeous redwood forests, and I grew up in Vermont, which is the mountain state, and on those mountains are forests, and everywhere in between those mountains are forests. So I have a lot of memories associated with forests and with the type of peace that you can get from being inside a forest. And growing up, I was all about books with animals in it and books that featured fantasy events that took place in forested areas and mountainous areas, books about people surviving in nature or Julie raised by wolves, things like that. So I always kind of wanted to have that sort of thing for myself too. And growing up between the two forests, I was convinced that I would have my own moment of awakening where I would feel like I was a part of the forest. I was finally reaching the peak of my imagination where it becomes a reality for me. In my imagination, I could talk to animals. I had a natural way with calming down animals and making sure that everything was going to be okay in the forest, and maybe some superpowers come along with it. I mean, I wanted all of that. My imagination had no bounds, and it shouldn't when you're that age. But I did have a couple of instances where those dreams were shattered, and I suppose I'll share them. One of those first instances that was shattered was my belief that humans and dogs, have that really special companionship, that partnership. And I know that it's true, but I wanted it to happen between me and the family dog. The family dog cared as much about us as just recognizing that we were part of the family. She was so sweet, so adorable, but really, at the end of the day, she wasn't really going to listen to us. She didn't ever act like we were anything special to her. But I was convinced that would all change when I went with her and we went out into the backyard in Vermont where there was a meadow, a forest, a pond, a couple other things. So you can only imagine my wild imagination. Just every time I went out there, I wanted to see something. I wanted to see deer. I wanted to have the possibility of meeting fairies, something like that, something that I'd always dreamed of. We go out, and in my head, I'm convinced she's leading me somewhere. I'm like, this is it. This is the day. I'm going to reach that peak, and I'm going to start my story now. This is the intro to my story, the entrance to the forest. We're crawling through the undergrowth, and that's kind of when the first red flag came up. We entered through this beautiful little clearing in the forest, not unlike the one I'm drawing here. And the first red flag is that we left the clearing and started going through the thickest undergrowth. The thickest undergrowth. And I couldn't really move forward, and she didn't seem to care about that. But I was like, no, that's okay. She knows what she's doing. I'm going to follow her. She'll lead me out of the forest. That's what dogs do. Dogs are incredible. I'm this is going to be the adventure of a lifetime. I was still convinced. I was like, you know what? Like, I'm getting smacked in the face by branches. I'm getting scratched. I stepped into multiple mud puddles, but I kept my eye on that beautiful prize in front of me, which was the ultimate dream to be like a part of the forest, to know the forest. And I felt like, our dog was my like little ambassador, and she's introducing to me all the wonders. And I'm waiting for those wonders. Well, I lose sight of her because she was able to maneuver the undergrowth a lot better than me. And my dreams kind of came crashing down because I got my foot kind of stuck in this really deep mud puddle. And I look for her. I'm like, surely she's waiting for me. Surely she's waiting for me, and she'll come back for me. Because at this point, I didn't actually know where I was in our forest. It was kind of big. Some of the land was probably owned by our neighbors. Some of it was owned by other people, I'm sure. It was not our land. We were renting the property anyways. And I'm in this forest that, frankly, I didn't know very well. Because I had been relying on our dogs to show me everything. And she's gone. Well, with my foot stuck in the mud, I kind of didn't want to give up on that dream yet. So I continued to wait, and no dog came back. It was quite a while before I got up the courage to try to find my way out of the forest. And frankly, I don't think I was as deep in as I thought I was at the time, because it really didn't take me that long to get out. But oh my goodness, was I terrified. Because my idea of being led through the forest, of having the safety of a protector partner, of a kind of compass in the dark undergrowth, was completely shattered. I was by myself in the middle of this strange forest. There were no fairies. There were no like squirrels or birds coming down to meet me. I had no magical powers. I was a goofy little human that thought that they could go out into the forest with zero survival skills in their own backyard, and I got lost. And my dog just booked it. She did not look back at me at all. I stumbled through the undergrowth, running sometimes when I could, because I was now convinced the opposite was true, that the forest was evil, it was out for me, and a bear was probably going to show up and just tear me limb from limb. I was either one of two extremes. There was just no in between there. And it was so terrifying. And I was in tears. I was panicking. And then I got out of the forest. All of a sudden, I was in our meadow, and I could see our house. And I was so relieved that I wasn't even upset anymore. I was just relieved to be alive and to not be lost and to not have to be found by like a helicopter search crew in like 3 days. Like, I was just happy that although my dream was wrong, that it didn't mean that I was also dead as a result, or like famished and starving. And I stumbled back into the house, and the worst part is that nothing changed. I was gone on this imaginary journey into the forest where I would finally realize my true potential, and I get back and nothing's changed. I just had gone off with the dog. The dog's waiting for me at the house. Oh, no, she's not waiting for me. She's at the house. Indifferent about me. And I'm there covered in scratches, muddy shoes, not really out of the norm because I kind of would go traipsing around everything anyways. But oh man, I at least was happy to be alive, because I would have been so upset otherwise. I mean, I was upset, but it didn't follow me for very long. I luckily bounced back from that experience pretty quickly. Wasn't really debilitating, but it was definitely like an eye-opener. I still believe that the natural world is beautiful and magical and full of things for us to experience. I don't think that it's in the way that I thought when I was in 4th grade, but that's okay. So now as an adult, I still choose to really treasure the natural world and the emotions and moods that it can give us. And I even hid myself a little magical unicorn in there. So that's my tale for the day. If you have your own tales, feel free to tell them to me. I would love to know, because I think that our connection with the natural world is fantastic. Never lose it. But yeah. Let me know if there's any other tips or tricks that you have for me. I'm still learning, and I hope you enjoyed this video.